Okay, we'd like to begin. I guess we don't officially call a meeting in order, which we're not having a meeting. This is a workshop. I will make a correction on that on the future agendas. First line of all the business we might be talking about Monday night, and all this is based on how well we produce and present our presentation that whether we make the agenda. So Haley, step forth, and you're the first, and you get to tell us what's going on.
Where do you want me?
Because anything you do tonight is just practice.
Oh, great.
Sit right here.
Great. I love
You do
practice.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Yeah, you can sit wherever you like. Yeah.
I'll sit right here and look at you.
That's the seat we planned for you.
Okay.
Haley, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're here for.
My name is Haley Bouchie. I am the president of the Jasper Merchants Association, and I am here to ask permission to use the green space on Halloween night to do a kids area while we do the trick-or-treating on Main Street.
Okay. And what do you intend to give?
I think Mary's, our party time is going to do some bounce houses, just a little bit for the kids to do because we have so many that come to Main Street, just to kind of scatter them out a little bit.
Okay. I think you just made the agenda. That's not like a great idea. We could have probably done that administratively, but the council would probably enjoy hearing your presentation and keep a little order to what's
I'll
going
get
on.
a little better presentation set for Monday, and we'll see what we can do.
That's fantastic. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Give us a heads up.
All righty.
Matt Bidwell, come on down. Come on down. I feel like we're playing.
I'm not sure that case is big enough.
Matt, I'm sorry we don't have a lot of council members here. I've received several, or at least one reason why they couldn't be here, or two.
I brought some information, and I got to tell you, I was told, in terms of why I was here, that y'all wanted to
I'm bringing Lisa up, and she directed Stella as to what we wanted.
Yeah,
So.
I didn't want to get off on a topic that maybe was wrong topic.
Okay. Might start with Jim. With the council, we have concerns doing our budget, what we're going to be hit with in the spring, what the real numbers might be, and we need to hear all the fear factors that might be coming toward us.
I think that's the bottom line.
Okay.
If you're not scared about what's going to happen with healthcare by now, then I'm not sure you got a heartbeat. So
here's the thing. On group plans that have under 50 employees, you've got the Affordable Care Act that's out there, and there are a lot of problems with that right now. But that pricing on that doesn't affect you guys simply because you're 50 or more. So where you guys are most effective is the fact that cases that have 50 more employees, and the city has about 90 employees. So you all fall in probably the worst business section you could possibly fall into. Because you all are in a business section that starts at 51, so nobody in the insurance business has to issue you a policy. You could take your insurance out to a number of insurance companies and they'd go, we don't want to insure you anymore. Now, from the business standpoint, it's bad for the insurance companies because that gives fuel to the fire as to why we need a single payer. So the insurance companies don't want to do that. The thing that makes your all's business segment such a challenging segment is that state law says the insurance companies do not have to give you any paid loss data on your policies until you get 100 or more employees. So you guys have between 51 and 100 employees. The insurance companies don't have to give you any information about yourselves other than say this or that. And then the insurance rates that we get are based upon whatever methodology they're using. And like I've got 3 renewals I'm waiting for now for January 1 for cities and small employers that are in the same bracket as you are, and it is a crapshoot as to whether they're going to get a rate decrease, a hold, or they're going to double the rates. And we have no way of knowing because they don't have to tell us anything.
When will they tell you?
60 days out is what the law says they have to.
60 days out.
From
for
your
the-
renewal.
For your, that you're talking about for January, not us, the one for January.
No, I'm talking-
One of your clients is what I'm asking.
For the
That
city
you,
of
that you
January.
just mentioned.
The law says an insurance company doesn't have to give you a renewal until 60 days prior to the increase. The administrative policies of the insurance companies that handle you all is 90 days,
I understand that.
So
You-
we won't know anything until February.
till February 1.
Okay, now, but you mentioned Jessup and one of these others. When are they going to be, what's their drop dead date? The same as ours?
Well, like for my groups that renew, see, our renewal is April, it's April 1.
Different cities will have different.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. When is Jessup's going to be? Do you have somebody in December or,
It wasn't Jessup. The group I was talking about is
Okay.
actually City of Thomaston.
okay,
They're about our size. They renew January 1. Their renewal gets released this week.
okay. Now, when you, what's this, would that not be a great indicator of what we're going to be looking at?
No, because
Why
they're
not?
looking specifically at that account's claims.
Okay, but still, we're still 90, 100 to 90, and they're probably the same age
If their
bracket.
history is better than our history,
I understand that,
Do you know our
but it is at least a model.
No, they won't tell
I'll
us.
tell you.
They won't
Okay.
tell us.
So we need 10 more employees?
Once you get over 100 employees, the carriers have to give us claim history. So like, see, on our cases with over 100, they're actually quite easy to manage because I'm getting claims data anytime I want it. I can get it. I generally review it every quarter. And so like I just met with Butts County. And I just told them what their renewal next July is going to look like because I've got all the data. I can look at it in analysis. And see, their claim, the insurance companies, when they renew you, they generally are looking at the claims that are about 5 months prior to your renewal.
Okay.
So see, they'll get the renewal 90 days in advance, but they're looking at data that's 2 months. They pull the data 5 months prior, they base the renewal on that, and they release it. So you guys are going to be judged on your all's claims. Let me get this right. April. They're probably when they get through October is what they're going to base your all's April renewal on. But I won't know what that number is until that. So it really, now what I can tell you, some stuff I can tell you, is I can tell you where your claims are in relationship to what other people are paying. So there's some indicators. So I can sit there and I adjust it for benefits, and I can sit there and say, you know what? You all are paying $500 for single coverage and your benefit's a $500 deductible. And the norm, you're probably 15–20% below norm. I can tell you how you guys are faring in regards to what manual numbers are and what average rates are. And that gives me a pretty good indicator in terms of, you know, are you all paying above average or below average? I can give you a number like that.
Well, we need something like that during
I
our
can
budget
provide-
process.
I can provide that. And I can tell you this. What I generally tell all our customers when you're dealing with a budgeting issue is that in order to keep the insurance sustainable, you know, you've got to look out. I try to look at it in 5-year blocks, and generally speaking, most of our groups, my larger groups, try to keep those 5-year average increases around 7 to 8% is where they try to keep it. The smaller the group, the more volatile they are, and most of them will try to do 9 to 11. But you do it over a 5-year period. So you may go a year with no increase. The next year you go up 7 or 8. The next year they want 20. But when you look at it on a budgeting standpoint, you almost have to try to say, okay, this is what we spent in 2017. If we project this up 10% for the next 5 years, this is where we're going to be. Is that something that the city can sustain? And you look at it that way because you're going to see no increases and then jumps and no increases. City of Jefferson, which is your all size, they got a 10 to 12% decrease this year. A decrease. And
can
so,
we join to them?
do what?
Can we join them?
Yeah. And they're the same size as you all. But I think what I'll do, now that I have a little bit better understanding, let me put together where we're at an average in terms of where you guys are in terms of where the manuals are, and maybe give you a little bit more of a projected out. Because see, from a city standpoint, you might sit there and say, okay, we're going to project this out. Let's say we're spending $1 million this year. And if we do a 10% increase on that every year for 5 years, which is gonna take it to 1.1, 1.21, and it's up to 1.8 or 1.7 in 5 years, is that an acceptable budget based on growth? And then if it is, you say, okay, then that's the plan. Otherwise, you say, no, we gotta get the thing more like 6 to 7, and then we build it down, and then that, when we get increases, there's only 2 ways you can deal with increases. You obviously shop the market, and we're down to 4 or 5 carriers, the only ones out on the market. When you shop with them and you feel you've got your best,
Would you name those for me, please?
you're gonna have Cigna, you're gonna have Aetna, you got Humana, you have Alliance, you have United Healthcare, you have Blue Cross, and I don't think I forgot anybody. I mean, there's not that many. Now, you can also get into doing some really screwbally things and start doing self-insured. And I can explain to you what that means, but you start to take some additional risk when you do that, but I can explain that to you. And then it's unlimited how many options you can do with that. So I can give you some general ideas in terms of what you're paying and where the averages are and where it's going to fall. But the reality of it is, if you don't have any claims, everybody wants you, and the rates get real. I'm going to use this as examples, public information. City of Thomaston, they hired us as the broker last fall. They got 90 employees. They've had 5 carriers in 5 years, changing the insurance every year. They go through the process and change it. They currently, January of 16, they went with Blue Cross. Same company y'all were with. They were with Blue Cross, and Blue Cross was coming up, getting ready to give them a very nominal increase, 5 or 6%. And we looked at the premiums they were paying, and their single rates were quite high. I mean, it was really, really expensive. And so the city was looking at it as a relative position, what we were going up. And when we looked at the numbers and we started talking to them, they had had several very significant claimants come off the group in 2016. And we went back, but they didn't want to shop it, but we quietly went back to the prior carrier they had in 2016, which was Aetna. Mm-hmm. And we told Aetna, these 2 individuals are off the group. Where could you price this group, all things equal? And they took this $700 rate down to $450.
Let me ask you a
And
question.
so, you just have to be aggressive on it.
And that's what I'm wanting to see, is us get aggressive on it.
But when you have the claims, and
If you have the claims, you get, I understand.
there's on you.
But, you come in April with a cost to us, I'd like to have a good feeling that we have done everything we can.
Sure.
To keep that thing beat down.
It is, there's only so much you can do. And see, this is the other thing. When I got Blue Cross telling me, no, this is where we got to go. And this is the thing that gets it, and you'll understand where I'm going. Everybody's sure heard of HIPAA and violation. I don't get any reports. Stella doesn't get any reports. We don't know. But we're a small community. Everybody knows everybody. And generally, if someone's taking time off, if they're having a significant medical claim, and the only leverage that we have with the insurance companies is we can go to the insurance company and I can sit there and say, I know you all paid out a lot of claims last year, but I also know that y'all paid claims out on this condition and this person is returned to work and that claim is over and you've got to stop charging it into my next year's renewal. And see, if I can sit there and tell them the name of the individual and tell them what's going on with it, then it gives me leverage with the carrier. If I don't know, they just tell me it's Chicken Little. So what we do, the most that we can do on this end is based upon what we know from HR. And again, we're incredibly sensitive to the fact that this stuff is very personal. We don't want any one employee or member to think that something that's going on individually with them is being detrimental to the cost of the insurance. But the reality of it is, it all comes into play, and so we're very confidential and safe with it, and we don't, but that's really how the sausage is made. There's what we did with you all this year was there's 2 insurance companies. that, and those insurance companies are Aetna and Cigna. They will literally let us do a pharmacy review, and they feel if I give them the dates of birth and the names of every employee and dependent and their home zip code, and you might remember me telling you all this at the meeting, they can tell every prescription that person's taken in the last 2 years. And because so much of our medical today is being treated with prescriptions, they can tell me who has MS, who has rheumatoid arthritis, how many diabetics we have, who's being treated for cancer. Just off of that pharmacy data, they can come back with a risk score. And Cigna declined you guys because there was 3 significant risks that were identified off the claims. And anyway, I'm sorry, but
Quick question. An employee who has reached age 65 and decides not to draw Social Security and go home and retirement, still continues to work, provide service for the city, has insurance, but they also have signed up for Medicaid.
Medicare.
Medicare.
That's okay.
Thank you, I mixed most of this.
Everybody does.
Okay, Medicare. Okay, I'll be on Medicaid. But anyway, that being said, does that affect our insurance if they're on Medicare, or does it help our insurance?
What the law says is that as long as you have more than 20 employees, and you've got an employee who's still actively at work, your employer plan is primary, which means they gotta pay first, and Medicare becomes a secondary payer.
So the older the employee is not necessarily a good
It
thing.
doesn't help us at all. And
You have to
legally,
go on Part B.
no, they can buy Part B, but it's still secondary to the city's insurance here. And an employer cannot incentivize an active employee to to drop their insurance. So
We can't give you an extra dollar.
I can't sit there and say, look, Mr. Mayor, you know, we're gonna pay you $500 more a month, but find your insurance somewhere else. We can't do that, that's illegal. And if Medicare catches you doing that, they will come back to you and say, you know, 2 years ago you all did this. Well, those last 2 years we have paid out $20,000 in claims on your mayor, and you are now going to reimburse us those claims. So that's how they penalize you if they catch you doing it. So, you know, when you have older employees, you cannot do anything to incentivize them. I can tell you, you can somewhat get creative. Like, let's say that an employee normally works 40 hours a week. And let's say I get an employee who gets themselves to, no, you can get creative. There's nothing wrong with this. But let's say I get an employee, they're over 65, and if I want to sit there and say, you know what, we're going to offer you a part-time job. You're going to work 28 hours a week. You're no longer going to be eligible for insurance, but we're going to pay you the same annual fee, or the same annual. So you might have been making $30 a year. You're making $12 an hour. We're now going to pay you $16 an hour. You're going to make the same amount of money, but you're only going to work 28 hours. And you're now part-time. Would you accept that?
And they can or cannot, because it's very difficult because of age with employees.
Well, if I'm going to sit there and tell you you're going to work fewer hours a week, you're going to make the same amount of money, would you do it? But you got to go out and buy your insurance. You know, you got to get, you know, you don't want to go for insurance.
So you'll be able to be more receptive to Medicare.
You might be more you might be more receptive, you know, to doing something different. So what I'm suggesting to you is that you might you could probably find a way to reduce your full-time workforce and take some of it to part-time on some positions that may make sense. So, you know, that could be.
I feel like we need some incentive for our older employees to some type of benefit that we could provide for them if they went home at that age. But we can't just say, you're at that age, we don't need you anymore. I think we'd probably be able to run.
Like the horse.
We'd be Gainesville defending ourselves in federal court.
Yeah. What
I know Sonny's sitting right here.
Is he still asleep?
Wake him up.
When you get old, you stay awake. Y'all are trying to kill us.
The other thing that you might get is you look at the city's pension, You know, I'm sure you all have retirement benefits here. And again, this isn't popular, but again, as a strategy, you know, I would make sure my pension plan is construed so that once somebody hits their Medicare, excuse me, their Social Security retirement age, I would stop having my pension benefits get any better. I would, you know, now that's not popular, but I'm just telling you.
It's not right cruel. Won't we just take them, won't we just take them, put them beside the river and let them starve to
They
death?
already did that here.
But if they're incentivized to keep working, then they'll keep working. But if your pension benefits can't get any better by working longer past your Medicare, I mean, that's,
Maybe if we quit ignoring, start ignoring them.
yeah,
Sonny who?
So, come on, Robert, you're gonna be 65. You're gonna be 60.
I've been drawing the same pension for 9 years.
And
It never goes up, never goes up.
Well, ours don't change.
yeah.
They don't, I mean, that's already in. Hughes has not changed the
There's
dime.
no cost of living.
no,
I didn't realize that.
so they're kind of locked in and they don't get better. So
And
they
it's
gotta
just-
work or they starve to death.
Just
Or I
the Social
would.
Security goes up, that whopping 9% or 2%.
Social Security.
Yeah,
Hughes said his
Last
dimes
year.
never went up.
yeah.
From here, he said it's been the same.
Oh, you know, my pension has never gone up a nickel.
Yeah, a lot of them don't, a lot of them don't.
Questions, Jim?
No, just comments that, again, man, we need to look at this thing hard and quickly, because we're gonna be going into budget, meetings, pretty
No,
quick.
we're setting the budget between now and January, if we will.
And if you remember last year, we got a surprise of, how many thousand, $40,000 after the budget had already been done. There was some actions we took that we weren't happy with, we had to, employees had to pick up a portion, and we had to make some adjustments to the budget.
I have a suggestion. It's so obvious. How would y'all feel about changing your renewal date to January 1?
What would it take to do that?
I talked to Blue Cross and told me we want to get on a January 1 cycle and see if they'll give us a renewal with a trend change. It'd be a trend change, but that way we're locked in January 1, it solves your budget.
I didn't know we could do that, because we talked about that last year, I thought.
No, I can get them to,
That would be, if we could have a heads up.
I see that way, I can sit there and say, look, you know, we just took this huge increase. What kind of slack can you cut us on a January 1 renewal?
What's the risk? Risk is we
here's-
start paying more money earlier.
Well,
and,
but see, let's say they come in and they go, okay, we'll do it January 1, and it's an 8% increase. Okay? They're gonna look at it from trend months. You got April going to, usually your trend is 1 a month. And so they're gonna sit there and say, okay, they're probably gonna come back to me with a high single-digit number and say, we'll do 8% January 1, but then that way you're locked in for 12 months, not until April, and you're now into your budget cycle, and it makes it so much easier for you.
Sound like a plan to me.
I don't see a great risk.
Any information we can get prior to doing our
Well,
budget, 'cause
what it does-
how many pavilions will we lose?
Well, I think what I'm
Eventually,
hearing,
we're gonna,
Have you had a pavilion?
let me go to Blue Cross, and I will tell you this, Blue Cross is not gonna wanna do it for a couple reasons. And the number one reason is that about 70% of their business renews on January 1.
Right.
And me asking them to move another group to January 1, see, a lot of people like April 1 because it's off cycle, but the reality of it is, it makes, you know, for y'all from a budgeting standpoint, y'all need to have your group renewing on the budget cycle. So the city of Duluth, their budget year is July 1, and they wanted to know way in advance. So they changed their renewal date to June 1. So we actually, they actually get their renewal, you know, 90 days prior to June, so we have their renewal in February for their July fiscal, and it's all settled and done way in advance.
What about our renewal in December? December
1. Now, I will tell you this, I would go with January 1 for this reason. All your deductibles and your out-of-pocket maximums reset January 1. And that way, if I've got an employee who might be looking at getting on their spouse's insurance, it's just so much cleaner.
Okay.
And most of the state health plan, most of your big employers do January 1. So that way, if I've got employees that have spouses, it's easier for them to.
But it still would throw all of our numbers into our budgeting process.
And then, if you've got some really, really old employees, maybe they'll get on Medicare too, you never know.
He's not laughing.
Imagine screw the old people weeks.
I'm sorry, okay, Sonny, you
All you
can,
people sitting there laughing, I'm going to be sitting there laughing at y'all's eyes too.
Sonny, I don't think you're any older than I am, but I may be wrong.
It's so
I'm
weird.
looking at Social Security.
we're getting old at the same time, I promise you. It's coming at us like a train down a track.
I knew I was gonna get old, I just didn't think it was gonna be this quick.
And this severe.
Is that the old saying? If you were gonna live this long, you're taking better care of yourself.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, Matt, we appreciate it, and if you could move us toward an area of time that we could work our budget into the
I'm
real
going to
numbers.
inquire with Blue Cross right now if they'll do that.
Okay.
And
Work with Stella and Lisa on getting that information. And I'm sure if I was doing the budget, I would love to be able to have a better number.
Oh, yeah.
well, you know what all your options are.
Yeah.
I'll see if they'll do that. Okay.
And if they won't do that, see if they'll do December. Well, even with that, we still
Here's
got
what
that.
it is, they might sit there and say, I don't know if we get it. Because see, right now, they're releasing the January 1 renewals this week. So they may do it, but they might tell me they can't release the renewal for another 2 weeks because they got to do it. So that's the biggest issue is the timing. But even if they release it in 2 weeks, I think that's better than trying to deal with this issue in April.
Yeah, if we don't get something like that, my suggestion on the budget is that we put an extra line item in for potential insurance expense.
So we do, I promise you.
Well, I know it's.
It's gone just like that.
I know it's hidden in the budget. I would want a separate line item just identifying it.
If we don't do it, we can always revise and add that provision, it's the same thing.
I'll send an email to them and I'll be back in a month.
That would be big, and we will have that on the agenda. I'll put you right there with party time. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. Good seeing you. And Sonny Underwood.
You're gonna be here Monday. Thank you, Matt. And watch this, in front of the camera, in front of Jim, and all the council members who are not here tonight, we appreciate, and I'm not just saying that, I know we pay you for your efforts, but he has absolutely saved us money prior to this craziness going on with our insurance today up until it's gone insane.
How much longer are we looking at? Crystal ball, how much longer before they get serious about correcting this?
You gotta remember, the Affordable Care Act affects almost exclusively about 10 million Americans. It's people buying individual coverage. The employers over 50, we just have about 4% worth of taxes built into our plans. And we got another 5 or 6% worth of mandated benefits. But outside of that, that's now in the plans. It ain't gonna change anything. The biggest problem with the healthcare, the biggest rise in expense is pharmacy. And this is akin to having a utility being unregulated, or whether it's electric, gas, or cable, and they're able to charge whatever you want to. And that's what's going on with pharmacy right now.
Well, and that's what I say about getting serious. They gotta start looking at costs, and they gotta start looking at reimbursements.
Your medical portion now of the cost is really pretty well contained. Everybody's doing a good job on that side. The pharmacy is what's eating people up. It is just eating them up.
And the one provider, that's basically socialism, am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like going to Six Flags and 2,500 people in line for the water slide. You can't get in, and no one will have medical care.
No,
I like to use that as an example.
Here's the best way to look at healthcare. It's approximately, I think it's $1.5 or $2 trillion of the economy. It's a huge portion, and not one person's out there saying we're going to shrink the economy. What's really being discussed is how it's going to be paid for and who's going to pay for it.
Listen to this. In 2006, 2007, we as a city began to realize we were in the hard times financially, and then sure enough, we had the Great Recession. Everywhere except Jasper, I call it the Second Great Depression. But when that happened, we had to make changes that in order to survive, we had to take on leach aid, find new revenues. And we've still got to, I'm trying to say this without stepping it too much. In 2006, we did this, and we had this Great Recession. You remember what started it? This is the point I'm trying to make. You remember what started the Great Downturn? Don't say anything, David. We talked about this the other day. Nobody remembers why we fell off the world and all the banks went bad.
Well, what I remember is the housing situation.
No.
Okay.
The gasoline shortage. The gas went up, there was a shortage, and everybody panicked. Next thing you know, mortgages are going bad. It started in 2006. And we've got to address that, because insurance is the next great energy crisis. And it's not just in Jasper, it's all across this country. People, they're playing with this in Washington, but I know teenagers or 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds paying $1,800 a month for insurance. And that's too much of their budget. They can't even make a house payment with that. So this is the next energy crisis. It's going to throw us into the dangest recession. It's going to be a depression this time.
I can tell you this, if I have to pay, and this is what people are doing, they're spending $300 and $400 a month for single policies with $10,000 deductibles. So they can't afford insurance.
They have no health care.
And if they get sick, they can't afford it if they do. So it is.
It's the next great economy cruncher. It's going to take us off the map.
A lot of our groups, like I just came from Gilmer County, their deductible up there is $3,500. And if an employee gets real sick, they out of pocket $7,000. And Pickens, I think their deductibles maybe $1,500, maybe $2,000. But when you got employees who are making $30,000 a year, that you might as well be asking for $10,000. I mean, that's a lot of money.
A lot of our decisions in the city have been made for the last several years based on how much can we cover their insurance, because we don't pay them anywhere near enough to go to the doctor. But if we don't hire those employees, we can't keep the kudzu off the road. We've got to have this number of employees, or otherwise everyone wants to know why the city not doing its job. But it's absolutely killing us. And I hope somebody in Washington realizes that if they don't give us a break pretty soon, there's not going to be any coverage. And we'll all be going to sit in the waiting room hoping for free medical care. So anyway, that's my story. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate fussing you out for you. You do. Thank you. Be good to Sonny. And now we're going to talk about one thing more expensive than health care is fire protection. Mr. Rowe.
Please, you're the one that put all this together.
I'll throw you under the bus again.
Yeah.
Jim wants to hear what we
I
call
want a
it.
fire truck.
Wait a minute, let me act surprised.
That's Sonny's line.
Kelly said, slap that shop look off my face. Yeah, she made a copy of you, and I'll let you have mine. Oh, you got it. Nothing has changed on our end as far as price or options as far as loans. Lisa put some interest numbers together for us that makes things a little easier to understand.
Payment.
She needs to explain that.
Yeah, payment, okay, this is, if we did it over a 10-year period, we get that rate, which may not be next
That's the
year.
projected
It's
rate.
projected. Over a 12-year period, we would save that much in interest, $23,531. over a 15-year period, compared to a 15-year period, we would say 58,710.
By putting it on 10.
By paying it off quicker.
Yeah.
And this is the 12-year period. If we choose the 12 over the 15, you'd say $35 over that 12-year period in interest.
And the payment amounts are up here in the shade.
Total interest paid for, if you do it on 15 year, 143,000.
42,000,
Yeah.
735.
And there's your rate, 42,000, your payment amount. But you can have that.
I want that.
I got,
You got one?
yeah, I
You
got
got
it.
this
I
one.
guess you got it on the machine.
Yeah.
The financing options have not changed. Lisa-
Mm-hmm.
And this is through the manufacturer?
Yes, through Sutphen Lease.
And
Do we know what GMA might do?
Yeah, I called them, we talked about it at the last work session, or maybe it was a council meeting.
I think,
The interest rate was really similar. They will not do over a 10, they'll only do 10 years. We'll be making monthly payments. We'll have to borrow the money when we pay for the truck.
There's no delay in a payment. In other words, if we go with GMA, we'll make a payment on a truck that we don't have.
We'll make a payment next year, whereas this company, we will not have to make a payment until 2019.
Right. The projected delivery date now, when we first started talking about it, was 12 to 14 months. They've cut it to 12 months because they've got a lot of stuff out of the shop. But you're still looking, if we order before November 1st, you're still looking at a delivery of probably November of 18.
Where are they building this thing?
Ohio is where Sutphen.
Is that where the last one was built? We bought?
Engine 2 was built in Pennsylvania at KME. And like I said before, KME's been bought out by a parent company who's bought out a couple of other companies, and the quality's just not there.
And you feel good that this is the best one for the price and that you've done your shopping?
I do, yes, sir. I've talked to a lot of people that are driving these vehicles. I've talked to people that are driving vehicles like we previously purchased. And I've had several chiefs from other cities tell me they won't buy any of these because the quality has slipped. I've heard nothing but good things out of these people. I think it's city of,
Don't use any names since we're on camera. Somebody's
spoke to a city that's larger than us, but not big like Cobb County or city of Atlanta, but they are larger than us. They just bought 2 of these at the same time and are already budgeting 2 more because they're that pleased with them.
They won't sell anything that they're...
I don't think so. And
Okay.
he's offered for us to come down and look at theirs, drive them, whatever, talk to the mechanics that work on them, whatever. So I honestly think this brand is our best bang for the buck.
Okay. Any questions, Jim?
Yeah. When's our next splosh come up? Isn't it?
We're 3 years into a 6-year splosh, 3 years from now,
It started in 14, so, yeah, 'cause they're more years.
3 years.
20.
20? Okay. My hope is that maybe the next splosh could be for fire and quality of life issues. I mean,
And we're gonna be caught up with paving, and we'll just do some basic,
yeah,
we'll have to do the whole town like we did this time.
because that's up for public good, whether we get to do that or not. But that would
The
be
county
my
has
suggestion.
bought many fire apparatus from,
Most
Splosh.
of them, when they were in the going to pay process, they used splosh to build stations and buy trucks. Can't pay salaries and stuff.
No, but we're gonna need another station before long too.
But yeah, I think it was the Billy Newton era, I think, when they did the splosh and bought trucks and built stations, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Billy that was involved.
2001, I think the splosh was 2002 or 3.
I believe so, yes.
And it started about 2003 and 4. And a lot of fire equipment was purchased in. Something we can really look at next, long term.
Yeah, but we've got,
And
we've got a few years before we can do it.
we'll have plenty left to pay off at that particular time.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as we talked in the first work session and whatnot, as far as the ladder truck goes, we need one now. Can we afford one? No. Can we afford one and this? No.
Kimley County has one, and I know it's a used one. Did it help their fire rating? Have you checked on that?
I've not spoke to the chief.
It's not Kimley County, it's City of
City of
Ellijay.
Ellijay. It helps a lot, not like a lot of people might think, but it does help. It helps in certain areas, especially with us with the commercial that we carry.
Okay, let me ask you this on your system right on top of you. Is this gonna help us with our ISO? We're gonna be able to go to a 4 or a 3?
I don't know that we can go to a 4 or a 3 with this, but we can definitely keep a 5.
I can only have a 4 or 3 for $500,000.
And we can work toward that. We can work toward that.
We gotta bring something to our citizens.
We can tie this to the insurance information earlier. When we went to a 5, number of employees was one thing that held us back.
We got
I'm not
way
saying
more
we
than
could-
we had then.
I'm not saying we could hire more firemen and just automatically go to a 4, but we lost a lot of points because of the number of employees that we had.
Would the second fire station have an effect?
Yes. It cuts down response times, which we looked at, it cuts down, or the mileage issues.
What about Pickens County moving into our court and our service delivery?
We get points from mutual and automatic aid agreements, but you know, you just get the baseline, you know.
We didn't get no credit for them billing at the airport?
Yes, we get credit for them being there, but not enough to change things.
That's 2 fire departments within a mile and a half mileage.
It works off mutual and automatic aid agreements. They get the same thing off me, but it's not a big enough points game to go.
You just said that if we build a new fire department, we'd be under our.
It would be under us.
Okay.
We'd have the same mutual and automatic aid agreements with the county that we've always had, which generates points, but not.
Well, I agree with, I'd love to have the lower rating,
Right.
but providing the protection is more important right now, I think.
And a lower rating,
They kind of.
Southern part of the city
a lower rating is not unobtainable. I'm not trying to tell you that we can't do it, I'm just saying.
We've not aggressively gone after it in a few years.
No, we have not. The very near future may be the time to try this, because there's been a lot of changes in ISO.
And people are saying we're from Racetrack South to Talking Rock Post Office North, Antioch Church Road. And the only thing we have past Philadelphia Road is a few buildings and pine trees. South, we have a lot of buildings, racetrack that
All
we
commercial.
but what's this? We have 3 water tanks that most cities do not have up and down 515 with fire protection.
Yes.
And we put those in place for fire protection, which we really have not gone back to ISO, which sometimes we'd rather pull our teeth and do that. We don't want to lose nothing.
Right.
You're gambling somewhat.
Sleeping dog thing, basically.
Yeah. But
And
with,
with the talk of SPLOST and building another station and stuff like that, if you do that on the 4 lane, you cut response times down to these areas, which gains points. Every little thing you do like that builds.
let me ask you, there's an accident at 53 and 515.
Right.
No, let's say the Camp Road in 515. You can look over the hill and see the Pickens County Fire Rescue. And they probably would respond as,
To an accident on the 4 lane, they respond.
or let's say the bargain barn was on fire. They'd respond. And you'd be there, they'd actually beat you there because they just opened the door and they're a full-time fire department, correct? So we have 2 full-time fire departments in our service.
Now, you have to keep this in mind
But
too.
again, all they're recognizing is.
I know, but we're gonna have that conversation with them.
But as far as the response goes, you also have to realize that one station there is pretty much covering the whole county too. They're not in the station as much as they're out of the station. They're out more than they're in other words. So, yes,
They go all the way to Marble Hill.
County-wide, county line to county line. That station runs with the other, they have a station on Grandview that's manned, and they have that station, and they run county-wide. So, if you have that car wreck, or if the bargain barn's on fire, and they're in
And
court.
they're not in Marble Hill.
They will beat you there, which is great.
So most of them they are somewhere.
And if you have another station on the southern end of the city,
I'm sorry, what?
if you have another station on the southern end of the city with the ladder truck sitting there, it's not gonna answer a car fire anyway. You're still.
Not
gonna
unless
be-
everything else is committed somewhere else. In other words, if both engines are on your house on fire, yes, the ladder truck would run the car or whatever. It's a question of availability. You know, the ladder truck, yes, it would. It would run a med call if everything else is committed somewhere else.
Well, all your fire TV shows, when they break out, they always come out with a big ladder truck and take off on a on the first response?
A lot of your bigger cities don't run rescues and things like that. They run what we call an ALS engine, which is Advanced Life Support Engine. And their ladder trucks are set up the same way. You go to the city of Atlanta, you may get a ladder truck in your front yard for a heart attack.
Right.
They don't run rescues though. They conserve personnel by not having an extra vehicle. They suck it up, in other words, with the wear and tear on this vehicle.
We'd rather not wear and tear this $500,000 piece of equipment.
And I agree.
I just think that's running up my driveway, unless I'm sick.
New asphalt?
They replace those trucks every 3 or 4 years though.
Yeah.
We don't, obviously. We're never gonna be able to.
You know, there's a lot more sirens in Pickens County and Jasper, Georgia than there were a few years ago. And no one really wants to hear those sirens until it's one of their family members or it's them.
Well, I can put it in perspective for you very easily. When I was a young man working here, I remember when we broke 100 calls a year. I thought I was worked to death. The young guys that work for us now average 125 a month.
It's still low, but we're still, and there's less to be in Jasper, Georgia.
And I agree 100%, 100%. But it's, 10 more years from now, it'll be 200 calls a month. I mean, it's just we have months, if you refer back to my council report, we have months that are slow. They're 110 calls. We have, 100.
A lot of these are med calls, right?
And they are. A lot of them are bad calls.
And they had been at 911. Grandma's got a stomach ache. 911 is an emergency.
Yep.
We got the
Because
response.
that puts all the liability on the system, in that case. I mean, I understand this.
And you see on the 6 o'clock news where some 911 didn't respond
Yep.
properly,
Yes.
and they make a big news story out of it that
They're
grandma's
people-
stomach was really a heart attack.
There are people losing their job because of that every day.
Yeah.
Because of that very thing.
Steve, thank you, and I guess we'll see you. I'm sorry,
One
Beth.
more question. These numbers that we changed, this doesn't include the equipment package, does it?
No, that's the trucks. The equipment's a separate
Do we
purchase.
need to get that, or do you order that at the same time, or you?
It's ordered at the same time, yes, but it won't be delivered till the truck is, because they actually come to the station and put it on the truck, where it needs to go, where we want it, et cetera. But it is separate from that price, but we can finance together.
That's what I was wondering,
with-
that's something I
So
should.
this financing is low.
Yeah, this will cover, this, if we go with this company.
And the equipment package, 75?
If I remember correctly, 74 and some change, I think. But it can be rolled into the
effective for
truck.
a 10-year period. When you're talking about 58,000 a year, what's another?
Well, that was a month, yeah.
That's her job. If this catches on fire, I know what to do, trust me. But yes, it can be lumped together and it can be ordered at the same time, but won't be delivered until the truck.
Thank you. See you Monday night. You better have your game face on.
Go sit down with it.
I wear a clean shirt.
Item D, tax exemption, Lisa Hoyle.
Tomorrow night, Monday night, we'll need to decide if we're gonna give the same tax exemptions as we always have. $3,000 homestead and $4,000 for 65 over homestead.
He can almost recite that too.
That would be on the agenda, and then the millage rate.
I may need to ask for that one day. Not that I'm that old, but
That'll, both those things, items will be on the agenda Monday night. That's really all I have.
Thank you. Planning commission update, Sonny?
The planning commission met last evening and approved the annexation of 17.8 acres, or 18.7 acres, something. By a vote of 2-1, there was 5 citizens around the property here. They really didn't have anything bad to say about it. They asked some questions and all of them were answered.
Okay.
And so now this will go to the council.
Are we gonna keep it a secret where this is at?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said it was on 5.
Close enough.
I'm sorry, 4:30 434 Bowling Fountain Road.
And it's owner of
Still a
that property.
secret to me, you got a map?
Owner of that property, is, the Waters family, I guess, Lonnie.
Yes, Lonnie and his brother.
And Lonnie, since you're here, tell a little bit of what's going on with that property. And like before Lonnie does this, I like to qualify, the city of Jasper spent lots of money, lots of legislative acts in order to annex, built water tanks on 515 for the growth. And we have annexed more property per capita than any city, probably in the state of Georgia over the last 20 years. And we attached that to our sanitary sewer. In order for this family to receive this for this property, which was probably not mentioned last night, otherwise they didn't really want to be in the city, they have to pay extra taxes. But with that, Lonnie, defend yourself, tell us a little bit what's going on over there.
Okay,
I'm gonna start
we're
coming to
just,
sessions.
we're putting the property up for sale. We have a potential buyer. They have requested that it be annexed in. That was in the contract for the purchase. And they requested that it be annexed in as C2 and R3. And I filed an application, my brother and I, with Sonny. He has done his job.
City of Jasper.
Yeah, and so what we're doing now is just waiting for all the responses and the vote on it. But we don't know what they're gonna put on it. That's
Okay.
what we're supposed to.
With that, Jim, may have a letter from the commissioner's office. Do we have that available? We usually get very little response from the commissioner's office, but this property backs up to, it fronts 515, and every time we annex a piece of property on 515, it also backs up to another property owner. And this happens to back up to Stevens Road, and what else, or what other road?
It backs up to Bowling Fountain.
Bowling Fountain Road. Stevens Road's very close.
Stevens View Road comes off the Refuge Road.
And of course, as I would, and anyone would, take the position, not in my backyard, I don't want 500 new residents, I don't want Target, I don't want whatever might be there, Popeyes or Buffalo's or whatever. And 5 people showed up last night, but you say they didn't say anything in the meeting?
No, and the city's office has not had one complaint since we sent letters out to the surrounding people that live there within 200 feet of the property, and we have not had one person call up to complain about it.
Well, I got a sideways rumor that one of the people here last night was upset, but they didn't say anything. Didn't voice their opinion. There's a public hearing last night. They should have, they'll be here at the council meeting, they missed their public hearing. But all this will be discussed. I mean, it's not, Jim, it won't be your first, what was used to be your title of the city of Jasper?
I was at one time chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I believe. And if I remember correctly, the only way I could get off of it was by becoming a member of council.
But reluctantly, I supported you, because Jim did a good job during that particular time. But that's what we're gonna be facing Monday night. If you go down the road across from the racetrack, we had half the people in, what's the name of the old subdivision across from the racetrack? Green Valley Farm show up at the tech school when we had a council meeting there, and if you want someone upset, affect their property or their quality of life where they live, and you will have upset people. And I was shocked when you told me that no one spoke last night. They will be here Monday night, I'm pretty sure, especially after they see that. All right, but thank you, son. And good luck, Lonnie. What we're talking about with Lonnie also is, he wants R3 property, Jim.
Give that to one. All three of them.
And it'll end up having to be a planned unit development. We'll have to look at a plan to show for the R3. You can't have double zoning. It's either gonna be R3 or, so the R3 usually is the back side and the front side is commercial. And that's what I've been talking to Lonnie about that, and that's why I'd want to develop the property if I were a developer. Okay, water department update, Mr. Hall.
Do you have Roper's permission to ask for anything?
Yeah, I don't ask for more.
Make sure Roper approved of this.
You can buy 16 fire trucks, what you want.
I gave him a little nod before he got up.
Are we or you want to talk, I didn't have that on my list, or you want to talk?
You can
about
throw it in. Ben Turnsley was in our office yesterday, and we had a session of dealing with the wastewater treatment plant expansion. So you discuss that if you want to. Council would like to have probably an update on, it's going to take a lot of work before we get there.
Okay, yeah, we're looking, because he's basically done everything he can do and got approval on everything he can get approval on, so now he's to the design development part. So the city needs to decide if that's the way we're gonna go. We're gonna actually double the wastewater plant. The last numbers that I seen were way down from, you remember when we went to the workshop? What, 6 years, how long?
Probably.
Well, it was around the recession, because y'all didn't pass it, because.
Everybody stopped.
Yeah, and so at that workshop, they were talking about like 7 or 8 million. We've trimmed that down to stuff that we feel like we can do either in-house with our own employees, or do it, a little bit at a time, and just the overall loan itself now is around 4 to 4.5.
Yes, but with that, David, explain a little bit about your permit, how much permit we have presently available, and what time frame do you think when the EPD and the state regulators will say no more until you expand your wastewater treatment plant?
Well, we're right now 800,000 permitted, and we're doing about 600,000 a day. That's a little bit less in summer, a little bit more in the winter. So we're at about 600,000. And really, we're getting close to, big rain events or whatever, everybody's got intrusion, you're gonna have, getting close to the permit already. They erased that one because we were in a state of emergency declared by the governor.
Right.
So we've already broke it once, but they threw it away because of the state of emergency. But if we're gonna continue to grow, commercially or industrial or the apartments like you're talking about, anything in that matter, even small growth, we're almost there. So we're going to have to make the determination, do we want to stop or, continue on? Because we're looking at about probably a 3-year process here before we're getting started. And it may even be longer than that. This is depending on how everything goes. So we're looking at 3 years down the road if we approved it to start next year.
Well, it's kind of neat. We're always in a political process, it seems, but especially here in Jasper presently. And the candidates are out talking about growth, pro-growth, this, that, and the other. And I love it when citizens say, we don't have a theater, we don't have a this, we don't have a that. And you remember our meeting, I think you might have stepped out, Jim, right before this. Gentleman, I wish I'd introduced myself. He said, I live in Jasper, Georgia, Pickens County for the inconvenience. He don't necessarily want the Longhorns in his backyard. He don't want the multifamily on Stevens Road or whatever the name of that road is. What name? Bowling Family? So these are decisions we got to make, and I love when these politicians come in, and myself being a politician, and people say, I don't want growth. I want growth. The back, you just forked tongue is coming at you. And this is where the rubber meets the road. No matter what you said at the forum or whatever you're going to say, are we going to put $8 million? Are we going to find water in Whitestone? Are we going to spend another $1.5 million, $2 million? And the city of Jasper is as aggressive and progressive as anybody in the state of Georgia, and I'll be happy to say that in a court of law or in front of the newspaper.
Well,
I think I just
when it
did.
comes to water, we have to be.
Well, we've been fighting this battle. The city of Jasper has grown 515 from Racetrack all the way to Antioch Church Road. I think that, and when somebody says the city of Jasper under this administration has not been progressive, I'd like to have a time when I get to look at that camera before Mary takes it down and say, we've been growing hand over fist. Sometimes the point where it bothers me that we may have too much population, because people call me a controlled growth, mayor. But I promise you, we have run more water lines, built more water tanks, expanded the wastewater treatment plant, and Mr. Looney has been a council member and the planning commission has been part of that. So when they say we haven't, we can say we have. We bought more fire trucks than any previous administration in the history of Jasper, Georgia. It's not like we're going to double that next year. But I just want to throw that in.
And this council's not going to be out. No council is ever out shopping for a Longhorn to come in. We make services available so that it's attractive. But
the private sector gets to make that decision.
they make that.
We ended up with a fat. LJ got the Longhorns. Years ago, we passed alcohol thinking that would be more aggressive and entice restaurants on 515. But our location is the biggest part of our problem. It's easier to load up and go down to Bravino's if you want Italian tonight instead of going to have a Fats burger or whatever the case may be. And so in Jasper, Georgia, we got the decisions. It's not that inconvenient, actually. It's 35 minutes down the road, you're eating whatever you want, or you can stay in Jasper. So we got the best location, I think, possible.
If we're gonna get started on this, it will stop.
But and this is where, like I said, the rubber meets the road. We got to make these decisions now. 2006, Jim, you were part of the council at that time. We said, well, we can't afford $8 million right now. We would be quadruple our rates if we would grow. The growth's got to take care of this. We can't put this on the back of our individual customers. We can't quadruple our rates because we want to. But now we do this, and we don't grow. Your water bill and sewer bill being $35, $40 an hour would be $120, and that's why we held up, put our brakes on at that time. But if we're going to get that restaurant or that Longhorns or whatever, we're going to spend a lot of money. But in 2001, back in the early days, into 1995, in those days, our budget was $1.8 million when I first walked in. Today, the budget's $11 million. And we've done that because of growth, not because of tax increases and water rate increases. But this is going to be an exciting time trying to decide we're going to spend $8 million, or maybe we're going to break that down to $4 million.
We'll break it down to $4 million. We'll do the other $4 million, but we'll do it in-house.
Right.
And we'll be able to do it.
And that's not for a tremendous amount of permit.
But we can't build the plant,
Right.
of course, but the other stuff we can do, and we can do in-house. It was $900,000 when I come here in '94. The water treatment.
Yeah, when we were down there, yeah.
$900,000 a year. Okay,
Let me ask Sonny one thing that relates to sewer expansion. County has, some people in the county have talked about the permits and how much activity they've been having, talking about a big increase. Are you seeing the same thing in the city?
In the building permits.
Yeah.
You come down to my office and I can show you exactly what it's doing right now. And this is just the start of it, really.
So you are seeing an increase?
Oh, gosh, yeah. But now it's mostly commercial with us. We don't have a lot of residential.
so we just.
As far as I know, commercial needs sewage and water
Yes.
too.
But we're sitting right here. We've got a group of people going to be upset Monday night because we're looking at a commercial / R3, which is not popular because it's popular with one group, not popular with another. We can't look at a landowner, even if it's Lonnie Waters, and say, we don't want you in the city when we've annexed everybody down 515 who was willing to put in an application. And with that, I can segue into, after 24 or 23 years of trying to annex Amiclo Electric, they have asked for sewer, we have provided sewer, and they're in the process of bringing their property into the city of Jasper. 24 acres.
Yes.
So that's quite a piece of property that will help us offset a lot of costs in the future. And Amiclo Electric's always wanted to, and I appreciate Todd Payne and the board for applying for that annexation and being part of the city of Jasper, because we got a lot of money invested in running sewer and water up down 515 for those type of businesses.
They could use more of their land over there that they have for field lines, for sewer,
Yeah.
for buildings.
Yes, they're gonna grow.
Yes.
Sonny, I might suggest, and I don't know how much there's confidentiality involved in any of this, these permits. If there anything that can be said to council about that, I would suggest you do that Monday night. Talk about the increase in
Get Jerry next, but I'll do it for you.
And
That's a joke.
There's some
again,
things I could tell you, but I really can't tell you.
well, and
Jim, let me tell you, anything Sonny has, he will tell you Monday night, I promise. He's no secret keeping Sonny, is what I call it.
that's what, and I don't want to break any confidentiality of,
Everything I got on the board down there, you can come down there, anybody can walk in my office and see it.
Like when he gets to his office, it's actually a public record, pretty much.
well, let's discuss that in the council meeting. Spend some time on it.
We'll go, I swear we'll come back to you, David. Okay.
I'm gonna show you this.
Yes, yes.
This is what me and the mayor were informed yesterday, the county has done, I won't say in privacy, but it was about as close to it as you can get. But as the mayor noted, when he asked Ben about it, when we were asking the questions was, okay, they're building a treatment facility up there, so what's their 7Q10? So if you
Explain what 7Q10 is.
7Q10 is a measure of the least amount of water that is drawn out during a 10-year period for 7 days, the lowest measurements that are made for 7 days in a 10-year period. So at that 7Q10, if we flip back there to that page on the bottom, one more page over, at the bottom it gives you what they're going to have to discharge out of that lake to run that treatment facility, and I don't know if they actually figured those numbers, but I did. And it's about 2 million gallons a day in April that they're gonna have to discharge out of that lake, and about 500,000 gallons a day in September, which me and the mayor have been up there plenty of times during drought times, and they're discharging nothing. So this is gonna be a big deal. This is actually a help for the city of Jasper. The mayor asked Ben that, and Ben was like, well, I'm not for sure what it is or whatever, but that is gonna help us during drought. What we've always asked them to do, just keep the water flowing out of the lake. Well, with this treatment facility, they're gonna build on the lake there, 330,000 gallons a day. I'm not sure who they're gonna sell it to because it's in our water service delivery area. But with that 7Q10, with them having to discharge that water, same thing that, I talk about to y'all about that we have to down at the creek, this is gonna benefit the city of Jasper greatly. So
And I understand the county had a special meeting this morning to deal with financing for the dam repairs and I imagine the water plant as well. Now, I asked the commissioner to come tonight, but he was doing something else, but he will come and speak to the council in the near future because we've got to deal with the water service delivery issue that's recognized by the state. And I didn't really want anybody in the middle of our water service, especially our watershed. But with that 7Q10, we're starting to appreciate the county's efforts in that area. And Grandview will be much more of a water reservoir than they've ever been. So
yeah, they're our reservoir. With that permit right there, they're our reservoir because when it gets low, they got to keep us sending it. Even if they have to pump it, they've got to send it over the dam to us, and they've never done that in the past. That lake stops coming over the top, and we've been up there before, and it was leaking out just a little bit, and the mayor said, we're needing some water down the intake, if you could, tell the story.
Don't call any names.
Okay, and so we asked them to open it up a little bit more, and we went back up there the next day to see if they'd helped us out, and they closed it even more. Shut it off.
Okay.
So this is gonna be a big help for the city of Jasper because they're gonna have to continue to discharge.
And Bent Tree, Lake Tamarack, I imagine already has a 7Q10 because they do have a treatment facility. So we'll have more water coming down the stream will help us. Of course, it still won't be enough to match all of our sewer growth and all of our commercial. It won't be enough. We still got to find our raw water source somewhere.
Yeah, this is for now, just to keep us.
Yes, it's going to keep us. It's probably going to take care of our growth. Probably 2022, 23. It depends on how many people show up on Annex 24 acre property.
No, this will be just a small package plant. This thing should be built in no time. They'll probably pull it up on the back of a truck, set it off.
I didn't know the bus section.
Yeah, this will be very quick. I call them noodles, or like a membrane plant where it goes through those membrane filters and stuff. When you're dealing with clean lake water, you can put those on it. When you're dealing like with creek water or surface water, you have to have a conventional plant that will actually treat muddy water. These plants won't do that. If the lake were to get muddy or whatever, they couldn't run it.
If the mountain were to slide off and get a storm event, it could be an issue.
Yes.
But I think I'm going to be very much in favor for the council to be on board with helping the county as far as they're dealing with the state. Because it's actually going to improve our system for at least 5 to 10 years that we can not coast, but we can start looking at the areas without worrying about the summer of 2019 being like it was in 2014
and 16.
When you could actually step across the creek at Cove.
You wanna talk about these numbers, you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
All right, here is the numbers that we got from, Whitestone, or that is what they are discharging, which I guess you're familiar with that report, you've probably seen them, you worked in the mines. They,
No, I didn't have any responsibility for these mines.
okay, well, these are the numbers that they're saying that they're discharging now, which is enough water to go after already. And that's not even including if you were able to draw the actual mines themselves down, that's just to maintain, you know, where they can
That's
continue
just
to
keep the
operate.
level.
Yes,
Very similar to what we got.
yes.
And Jim, I've got John Klein, representing the city of Jasper. He's been volunteering his services. I felt plumb guilty for him, the amount of hours he puts in with me, dealing with Georgia Marble because of his ability to communicate with Georgia Marble, where I would fall quite a bit short. But he is going to ask them for permission to, well, first of all, he's going to ask for the maps and as much information to give them as what actually the static level in the mines are presently and how many gallons potentially are there. And then he's going to request the opportunity to do a test well on a location where if we can use their maps and find the deepest location as we did the coal mines. And with that, we might end up with billions of gallons of water in reserve, which would be a insane amount of opportunities for Jasper and all of Pickens County.
Not just an emergency, everyday operations.
Yes.
I mean, something you could draw out of. I mean, just with that right there, that's almost 1 million gallons a day.
What they're turning loose.
Yeah, what they're just pumping in the creek and letting it run down the creek now already. So that's not even including, you know, the actual mine itself, or the mine.
They got like 3, 4, 5 mines up there, I guess, and only one of them are operational. The rest of them, they're having to pump water to just keep them static so they can do their operations. But it's pretty exciting, and
I can remember Cove Mine being four 4-inch lines run constantly, or was it 4 8-inch?
I never saw that. But Tony Payne told me they were pumping 80,000 gallons a day to maintain the operation back when he was in charge of that
Unless it
operation.
was raining.
Oh, if it's raining,
Rain is
different game.
Yeah, me and the mayor walked down there one time, and it just come a big rain, and it sounded like a flood running in that thing, just the drips of water, you know, that it was soaking through. So, yeah, during the rainy period, I can imagine that, well, y'all run what? The guy got,
Graham,
yeah,
well, we pumped it down, what, 15, 20 feet? I mean, you estimated the millions of gallons that we pumped out.
well, I think it was around 40 or 50, I can't remember the exact number.
And that got it down to where the big water got opened up so we could actually get to the diver who passed away. Anything else, David, since you got it stirred up?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, sir.
So you want to talk about wastewater plant Monday night, or?
Yes, sir. We've got to keep this on the fire, and it's probably going to be old business for quite a while. May get Ben to come make a presentation pretty soon.
Okay.
Street update, Mr. Lonnie. After we've been beating on y'all now we want an update.
Okay, I'm gonna bring before council Monday night, there's a, street down on Harmony School Road. It's, Liberty Industrial Boulevard. Here is a map. The red line is the street that we're talking about. The yellow line is all, property that has already been annexed into the city. And this street, there's been some questions about it with the county and the previous owners and everything. All of that has been settled. The city, the businesses on each side of the street is actually in the city now. And so we have been asked to take that into the city of Jasper. And here's a letter from the county asking us to do so.
And this has been something when this came back up this last time, I was a little bit surprised. I didn't tell Lonnie. I thought it had already been done again.
We talked about this before.
And we have, and somehow it did not happen.
It never did come off the books at the county.
And so we're gonna get up the books this time Monday night.
So all
I
we got,
remember us talking about it.
all we got to do is approve it Monday night and it'll be in the city.
And we're gonna end up paving it before it's over anyway, because it's, probably getting beat a little bit.
It is.
One.
So from yellow line to yellow line, well, it's just the red.
Yes, just the red is all that'll be taken in. The yellow lines is properties that's already annexed into the city, so. The second thing is, the striping of these parking lots. I have been in contact with the Brown's Asphalt and also with Johnson Likes Construction. And that's Mr. Stillwell, his group. And there's very little difference in the prices that they have quoted. One of them is $1,200 and one of them is $1,250. So there's very little.
Is that not including any roads that
No,
we
this
have?
is just the parking
Now,
lot.
Fox Run, they don't want striping on their road. Or it's not been striped, has it?
No,
Okay, it's just, last time we striped it, we had a fallout with the neighborhood who didn't like it, but I'd love to see some type of old line down there, there's people know which lane they need to be in. Cause I was going down there the other day to look at an issue, and a car come around the curve, and I was a little wide, we almost hit head on, so just a little thought, we need to address that by talking to the residents to see if they want a stripe in their neighborhood or not. Sometimes it's intrusive and they didn't like it. But it was there before we repaved it. Jacobs Point, going up that hill is not striped. I think it needs to be striped up to beginning of the community. That way we'll have 2 lanes for people to see where the road is at night. So that's not been done. We may throw that in on our next paving job, striping, but little things I started noticing today that needs to be addressed, I believe. You and I kind of talked about that line.
Right.
Any other roads that's not striped besides Jacob and Fox Run? What about Sharp Top Ridge? It's been paved.
It's not striped.
I mean, a lot of these little neighborhoods with cul-de-sacs don't want the big yellow stripe in the middle of their neighborhood. I kind of like it myself. We'll talk about that becoming toward council.
And the last thing I was gonna go over is I got actually Lisa got an email for the city. A paving company, we are supposed to be opening a bid package Monday for the final paving job for this season. And one of the companies has sent in and said that especially them with other companies were so busy, this being the last paving jobs, that they had asked us to extend the deadline date for completion to April 1st of 2018. This is the only company that has asked for that. They've asked a couple other questions, all those done been took care of, it's, some questions about the bid package. But the date that they're asking us to move it up to from 45 days from Monday.
6 months.
They're wanting us to move it up to April the 1st, 18, which, I mean, we're supposed to open bid packages Monday, so.
If we have other potential bidders that can meet the date, I don't.
It's actually gonna be too late. We'd have to do a special, it'd be a terrible thing to try to do legally, I believe, to get it, we treat everyone fairly. And if we had a council meeting tonight, we could have probably addressed it, open the bids Monday. But, well, it'll be addressed Monday night after the fact.
I don't think there's
Anyway,
well, not any way, but I don't think there's any requirement that we change it for one bidder.
no, and we kinda like to have our seasons, we usually get 2 paving periods, spring
We
and
got
fall,
people who can get it done during the time we want it. And
for the amount we want. So.
yeah.
That's all I've got.
Is that all? Okay, thank you. Kimley-Horn traffic study, Jackie Dunn's not here tonight. Jim, I do have all those maps and any documentation. I think Jerry Negvidal, whoever has all of that, because he pretty much headed that up. But all the things that we received, you want to stop by and look.
Jack's schedule will not allow him to.
He won't be here Monday anyway?
He'll be here Monday.
Okay, good.
But today, he couldn't be here this evening because it's a short time.
Tara tried to call him, but she never returned her call. But he called Jim, he didn't report.
No, he didn't call us back, we didn't know.
Okay, but he's good, we'll put him in his old business, I guess.
Yeah, I think we carried it over as old business and then also the park, committee looking at the park.
Yeah.
And just a quick report on that,
You know,
we've been unable to get the,
what do you feel about those buildings up there, Jim? The old parole building, and David and I today decided to go to Ball Ground to have lunch, and we ate the bus. It's really neat, I'll have to say, really liked it, and people milling around Ball Ground, and all the little restaurants looked like they were busy, and we came to Jasper, and David said, well, we are too. He started pointing to from 61 Main all the way down to Quick Speed Burger. The Quick Burger is closed.
right.
And that's the county, of course, but I want to know why. I guess because they're not making money, or then they'd be open, but.
My understanding was they got into an issue with their septic system.
And you get that address, it's been there since 1962, 60, maybe 58, son, what year? 60, a few of us that can remember. But here's what's wrong with the Quick Burger. I go down there, I pull up, I want to sit in my car and I want them to bring me my food. That's what I did back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and I just don't like going in. I will go in for that little hamburger, but I'd rather have it. And like, we could have a meeting today sitting there in the car instead of going down and sitting at the bus. I think it still has potential. But we came back through town and David was pointing out, and you know, the thing about Ball Ground as well, it's a cute little town. We're kind of surveying, we looked at their little park. And I was talking about telling David about all the excitement that people have in Jasper for Ball Ground and the complaints that they always have about our little town. And David said, well, they still got their power poles overhead. And I thought, you know, that is right. We got ours down, and so we still got a neat little environment that we can have business in Jasper, and we got sewer running through it and water running through it, and I think we're going to have a big influence. And David was talking about running brick across the railroad and tying it into the depot. And I thought about saying, you are now officially a member of the Downtown Alliance. He walked right into it.
You asked what I thought about the houses.
That's where I was coming back to.
I think we got some opportunities there.
Some options that Ball Ground, they've got the neatest little bathroom situation. We don't have to renovate these old buildings, and there's not a lot of desire to keep those from a lot of people, but some people, I mean, I've always liked the old buildings, but I'm not sure we can make the park look really good trying to maintain those. And they're so large, we don't need that kind of building for bathroom. Ball Ground has a man and a women's bathroom, a neat little brick building, and they have their little pavilion, and that's what we could do, and I think that's what you're trying to go at. But that's just I promise you I was going to stay out of it. Here I'm in it. I didn't mean it.
I think we got some opportunities there. What I want to talk to the industrial development group about Wednesday, we have a meeting scheduled, 10 o'clock, I believe. 10 or 2.
Which one was it?
2, I think.
I think it had to change for Kirk. Kirk couldn't get here.
Whatever it is, I hope I got on the calendar correct. Anyway, I want to talk to them about the center building and discuss the arts group, potential use of it. And then I really just want to update them on what we expect to be presented to council sometime in the near future.
Well, the park's being, or the property, I'm gonna call it the park yet, the property is being used as we speak. I think there's still daylight out there, they're having their social. And, but I mean, the way that it ties into the downtown, I believe it would really draw people that they could go to a restaurant across the street. You remember when the old Keep Pickett's Beautiful building used to be a sandwich shop, and it stayed busy. And Jackie Dunn owns that property, and it has a tremendous possibility to be some novelty such as the bus. And we talking to David, the guy who is doing the depot, a couple of box cars or not trolley cars attached to that to make it look authentic would be a neat little place for a restaurant. So we have the same opportunities. We don't have a lake such as Lake Blue Ridge, but we are sure close to Canton, so we can say we we live here because of the inconvenience, but that we have the opportunities. Still have plenty of opportunities to develop.
Well, we need action from the industrial development group in order to
Move forward.
move forward on any use of that property
And per your little plan, wouldn't it look nice if we had a clean canvas to work with instead of trying to renovate old buildings and it's something that, you know, my big thought was in 2 weeks we could have bathrooms in those facilities. And council pretty much brought that to an end for a potential better. But if we don't do it totally, we could waste our time because we could already have bathrooms built. But we might not have liked them.
And build a new park facility.
Yeah, instead of these old worn out buildings.
They're rough. They're really.
I think we get some architects looking at it and some engineers and give us some opportunity.
And the city hall.
Yeah. Well, there's always a potential for other buildings on that property.
But that property is as central as you can get, and then we don't have a central park, so we're gonna have one now. We've got this acreage. And there's other acreage there that could be made available.
I just think it's a great piece of property and didn't realize what we had until I walked out there this summer looking at it.
You don't even remember Dan Sewell used to try to make me sell it to him? Literally, get mad at me when the city wouldn't make an offer. But that's about all we have to offer, Jim. Do you have any, well, JYSA donation, 8,000 or so, we don't quite determine what we're gonna give.
We'll
At least
decide.
eight.
I meant to talk to you before I put it on the agenda, and I forgot.
Okay, it's gonna be Monday, so I do definitely wanna give them a check, and if they either show up or I give it to John, if there's too much trouble for them to come out and pick up the money. That's about it.
I think the Kimley-Horn thing, that's something that council needs to be looking at too.
We don't have a whole lot from Kimley-Horn efforts. It's just a couple of pictures.
To do with what we.
I'll show it to you.
Right up the tulips.
Yeah, I guess what you.
Read in.
Where did I think?